The Earth Charter's core value of the interdependence of all life is the foundation of the work being accomplished by these amazing indigenous and community changemakers that you will meet in this video. They are engaged in solutions that nourish and protect the well-being of people, culture, nature, community, and the earth. Their initiatives foster financial independence, home and business ownership, food sovereignty, education that embraces cultural history and perspectives, and a healthy earth.
Our 7-gen vision really started off with the idea of what kind of world we want to see in the next 7 generations.
For us, the process is really simple, is act in the best interests of your great-grandchildren's great-grandchildren. It is make moral and ethical decisions that place the good of the group above the good of the individual. And finally, it's make decisions using complex decision models.
You know, our greatest threat right now is social inequality and climate change. And so, what do we need to be doing differently in order to make sure we have a vibrant and thriving world for the next 7 generations? And we've kind of talked about generations being about 25 to 30 years, and so we're having to think 175 years into the future. I think for us, we're thinking about, what does energy look like for us? What does our housing look like? What does education look like? Where are we getting our food from?
And I already knew that the economic models we were looking at carried their own values, and that our values were different, and that culture was our strength, not our weakness. Because this was back in the days where everybody knew Indians couldn't do business because we shared too much and we cooperated. It seemed to me like those were good things, and that businesses could be successful by sharing and cooperating. It's not that Indian people can't do business. It's they don't value profit over community. They don't value profit over life.
We really believe, and I really believe, that what we have to be working for is a balance in all things, in the way we think, in the way we act, in our relationships to one another and the earth. And so that's what we're actively fighting for here, is a restoration of that balance.
To be truly independent, Indigenous people must be able to make money and to control the money they make as individuals and as nations.
Indian man that was getting his master's degree in economic development, and I started talking to him, and he created this informal sector study, and he went out and basically the question was, what do you do to make money? And he began looking at 83% of the households earned about 87% of their income from these informal activities. They made coffins for the cemetery, they welded crosses for the cemetery, they mended fences, they did hair, they babysat, they sold lunches to the Indian Health Service or the Bureau of Indian Affairs people. There was 118 vibrant activities that were being done every day to make money, and I was like, that's it. That's it. And it was just all there, all of it in front of us, all this creativity, entrepreneurship, really and truly is the story behind the Lakota Fund.
There's always been that underground economy, but in some ways with the formation of Lakota funds and providing that access to business loan capital, it kind of formalized us.
On our 34 acres, we have a regenerative community development. It's one of our 8 initiatives. Our broader goal for this community is to be net zero.
Food sovereignty is another vital component of independence.
Regenerative agriculture is approaching food systems and food production from the point of longevity, of being able to be adaptable and not working against the land and nature, but actually being a part of it, working within it.
So we're here at Ball Gardens, which is a 1-acre teaching and production farm. So we do a lot of mixed vegetable production. We do a lot of egg production as well. We have some hens out here. And our goal was originally to teach the community how to grow their own food. And so over the years, we've kind of scaled up from doing like raised bed gardening to, full rows, and just to increase our food production, because we know there's people here in our community who are hungry today, and so having to balance the needs of like people are hungry now, but also trying to create systems that are more sustainable and more future thinking. And so the way we do that is to increase local food access, is to increase the amount of tribal food producers. And so we've started a farmer training program, really geared at getting people ready to start their own food production.
Buffalo were everything to us. They were our economy. They were our source of food, shelter, clothing, spiritual items. The Woolakota Regenerative Buffalo Range is a 28,000 acre buffalo range that will be home to 1,500 animals. It will be the largest Native American owned and managed buffalo herd in the world.
Underlying every single thing these change makers are doing is education. In order to restore their culture, they know they must relearn their own language, history, values, and life ways.
The foundation of our school is Wotakuye. That's our kinship system. And all of our kids here, we refer to each other by relative terms. That means that we're good to each other, we look out for each other, and we take care of each other. And every day that we remind them that, but that isn't just us. It's everything. We take care of the earth, we take care of the plants, the animals, and our things that we have because they come from the earth.
Our language is embedded with our life ways and our spirituality. We have a kindergarten through first grade total immersion classroom. We are designing a truly Lakota total immersion school.
The ultimate goal is to get our kids to be intermediate fluent in Lakota. We're going to speak our language, and we're also going to learn, our academics, and we're gonna learn our social skills, so that way we sustain our fluency. But we also start to take back our space. We start to take back our space that always had belonged to us.
So they're really taking what they've learned here about healthy eating habits, but also like cultural eating habits. So they're yearning for buffalo meat. They're yearning for deer and elk. They're yearning for those berries. So they want their families to go out and forage. They want their families to hunt. And so their wants and needs are really transcribing to their families.
We still have to meet state standards to be qualified as a school. So testing-wise, they're in all of their things, reading, math, science, they're all testing at least one grade level ahead, which is amazing. But it all comes back to what they're learning.
I just want to urge people throughout the world to make sure we're inviting diverse voices, including indigenous voices. It's not so much just being able to hear us, but it's also so much to making sure that we're considered leaders in this work.
Public bank is a financial institution that is owned by a local government, a city, a region, or a state. And the deposit base for a public bank are the taxes, the fees, the fines, the funds, the revenue that our city accrues, which then leverages to create loans, just like any other bank. But the difference between a public bank and a private bank is with a public bank, the interest and profit belongs to the community. So rather than it gets siphoned out of state by private Wall Street bankers and private shareholders, that money stays here and gets recirculated back into our local communities so that we can fund things that we need: affordable housing, solutions to homelessness, a Green New Deal for Los Angeles.
Capitalism just allows a few people to make it. Everybody else gets left behind. Then we need a strategy like cooperative ownership, because there you have broad ownership, you have community wealth.
We could, create several companies with, 50 employees at a time where we could build wealth in the community.
The model is such that no less than 80% of the ownership or the equity of any of those businesses is held by the employee owners. So there can never be a dilution event of any sort, no private equity or outside investment that, that might take that ownership level down.
We have our Green Team Cooperative and we have our Community Production Cooperative. It's a light-scale manufacturing that's based upon digital fabrication, right? And the whole science around digital fabrication. So that's precision cutting, water mill cutting, What most people understand is 3D printing. The main thing, just so folks know that it is actually working on is learning how to produce housing, right? Like different types of 3D print housing. We have community land trusts. Our aim is to stabilize, rents and just living conditions, and to make it something that's permanently affordable and long lasting for generations.
So CLT Plus One is a pilot project for DCLT, and it's the idea of combining CLT homes. So our traditional CLT home where the owner owns the home and we own the land, with an accessory dwelling unit. But our plan is to construct new housing and an accessory dwelling on the same lot and sell them both. We would manage that rental property for the homeowner, but it would also provide some increased revenue and equity for the homeowner.
With Evanston, if you overlay the map of Evanston with a red line map and where the 5th Ward is, the boundaries are very similar to that of the red line map. And in their documentation, they deemed it less valuable because of the amount of Negroes that were in that location. And so because of that, banks won't loan, developers won't develop, resources are taken away or not included.
And we move forward with that as a foundation of our case for reparation. In November of 2019, we actually had our vote on Resolution 126R19, which was to establish reparations for the Black community in Evanston using the cannabis sales tax revenue, a $25,000 direct benefit for housing equity that will build wealth immediately through equity.
So this arose from this tent camp community that started as a protest in a downtown parking lot in Olympia, and it was a protest against an anti-homeless ordinance that the city had passed. They had this idea of having tiny little houses and then a shared community building that would have a kitchen and showers and laundry facility, which is in a sense exactly what we've built.
30 individual cottages, each of which has a bedroom and a half bath, toilet and sink. There's 10 square feet or so of front porch. They insisted on having, and I can see why now, using a significant portion of their space for a front porch.
The big difference between being homeless on the street or in the woods, around here a lot of people are homeless in the woods, and being homeless in the camp is the difference between loneliness and community. So it was really interesting, for me at least, to learn that there are two fundamental human needs. One is housing, the other is community, and that they're equally important.
Freedom Farms, I think that's probably one that's, one of the easier ones for folks to grasp. And its objective is to produce food sovereignty in our community. Trying to encourage as many people in the community to take those front, lawns in the backyards that they have, and we have a lot of them have a lot of space in Jackson, and say, hey, we can change our quality of life. Two dimensions. One, producing a baseline of food for our membership, right, through our own internal community, CSA, supported agriculture model community. And the second is producing enough, of core commodities to go to market.
None of my teachers growing up would ever very rarely would tap into who I was as a young Mexican-American kid growing up or a biracial kid growing up. It was a real honor to design classes that were going to reflect the students within them, their history, the stories, their culture, their lived experiences now. And that's what we did. We did it through literature, we did it through social studies, we did it through art. And what ended up happening is the students found themselves, they were able to release themselves from any mainstream internalized oppressive type of experiences or thoughts about being Latino. Educational outcomes went through the roof. Students were graduating, in the high 90% from all of our high schools that we taught at.
The center is established to shed light on the need for sustainability, recognizing that all creation is interconnected and interdependent.
And as it happens, what these people typically want to do is they either want to go to other areas and help them work on agricultural development, or maybe they want to go into environmental policy, environmental advocacy, and things like that. They'll still get a lot of the same on-the-ground experience in terms of agriculture, but what I hope is they take that with them when they then go to advocate for agricultural issues, or when they go to work on policy.
The political economy in which we all live has already passed its end date. Signs of dysfunction are everywhere. And so another system is coming. And the real question, I think, for those who genuinely care about others and care about the future is what kind of system should we transition to?